Hello again everybody, welcome back to another video on my channel. This is 5 more random sports games to add to the spectrum. Yes, I thought I'd pluck 5 more sports games out to talk about. Once again, I don't always pick like the greatest games necessarily. I pick games that are precious to me, games I've played before, games that a memory is attached to, games that I remember playing when I was a kid and really enjoying. So I hope you know a little bit about some of these games, maybe even these games you've never heard of before and you like the look of. So that's always good to sort of like get somebody's attention, you know, to a game that they think, oh, I've never heard of that before and I might give that a go. So without further ado, we are going to crack on with it. Okay, so game number 1 on this list is Kickstart 2 from Mastertronic, released in 1988 for the paltry price of £1.99. Also released on Amiga, Amstrad CPC and Commodore 64. Now I have a little confession to make on Kickstart 2. Haven't played as much of this as I played of the original Kickstart, which is not available on the Spectrum. That was only available on the Commodore 64. Well, not only, there were probably other platforms, but it didn't come out on the ZX Spectrum. So I was a bit surprised about that because I thought I'd played it on the Spectrum. I really did, but it must have been the Commodore 64 version that I played a lot of. I remember it being very colourful, so it probably does explain it was probably the Commodore 64 version, to be perfectly honest with you. But I absolutely loved the original Kickstart. I thought it was fantastic, and so I'm looking forward to delving more into Kickstart 2. That's the reason why I picked this one as well, because I think a lot of people have played this, but it's just not one I've played. I did play the heck out of the first one though, and really enjoyed it. And I'm assuming this one's going to play very similar because it does look very similar, apart from obviously the colour scheme. And also you get a course designer, which is really cool. So it didn't get great reviews though, I'm noticing, which is a little bit disappointing, but I can't obviously speak myself for the quality of the game. It's just I added this one simply because, you know, massive fan of the original Kickstart. I would have put both on if the first one had come out on the Spectrum. I was just very surprised that it didn't, to be honest with you. Anyway, we haven't got a very long review on this one, so I'm going to try and as well keep these videos down a little bit because they seem to be going up very much in length. The last few have been about 48 minutes, which is not me planning it or anything. It's just a happy coincidence that it becomes 48 minutes. Somebody pointed that out in the comments and that was quite funny. But anyway, we're going to read the review. As ever, it's from Crash, this tiny little review I have here, and it starts here with D-biking, I'm assuming it means dirt biking, is a sport for those with nerves of steel, terrific bike control and the strength to survive being thrown off their machine countless times. In Kickstart 2, the sequel to Kickstart, 2 riders compete on a horizontally split screen, each crossing an identical course of awesome obstacles ranging from simple, rough terrain and steep ramps to rows of pounding pistons and incinerating plumes of flame. Springboards can send a biker high in the air, gates and brick walls require steady riding, mud patches that can bog down the best. So each rider must control his bike with skill, accelerating and braking, doing wheelies and jumping high when required. Only experience can teach you which riding technique is required when. At every riding session, 5 courses from possible 24 can be chosen or randomly selected. A target time is given for each course together with a total for all 5. No matter how many times the riders take a tumble, they always remount. No lives are lost, but valuable time speeds on at twice the normal rate. Using the course designer, you can redefine keys, construct a new course or modify an old one, and set up obstacles to provide the most testing of dirt bike challenges. The new or modified course replaces one of the original rides. Graphics, unbearably slow scrolling of a detailed but colourless background. Sound, silent 48K version, simple 128K tune. Options, definable keys, course designer. General rating, only the course designer gives this simple game long-lasting appeal, and only Mike's smash rating caused this high overall percentage. Okay, so obviously not massive fans of this then. Nick said, once you've mastered the controls and adjusted your eyes to the colour, Kickstart 2 is quite playable, but the course design is extremely hard to control and it's irritating when you can't turn it off and go back to the game, though some good designs can be created. Presentation of Kickstart 2 is good with an excellent title screen and you soon get used to the slow scrolling. Yet with much more exciting races like ATV Simulator on the market, this can only be a second choice, 62%. Mike, however, says Kickstart 2 is everything Codemasters ATV Simulator should have been. The lack of sound is annoying. Commodore 64 version has an excellent tune, but the rest of the game holds up superbly. It's playable and addictive with good and surprisingly smooth graphics and little colour clash. 92%. So it's a bit of a difference there, isn't there? in both opinion and marks. Presentation 72%, graphics 67%, playability 79%, addictive quality 76%, and overall 77%. So, not the best review, but it's a shame. It sounds like it's going to be quite slow, because I seem to remember Kickstart, the original on the Commodore 64. I'm not going to say it's like super speedy, but you know, it certainly wasn't. I wouldn't have described it as slow. Then again, it's been quite a few years since I've played it, so maybe I'm remembering it as a bit quicker simply because obviously I was younger, therefore maybe not quite as good at video games. Not to say that I am good now, but you know what I'm saying. It's like maybe that was the case. I don't know, but I don't remember the original being that slow, but it sounds to me like there is on this. But at least we're not getting a lot of color clash, which makes it means it's going to be quite a nice game. Let me know in the comments if you've played this one. I don't know why I've never played Kickstart 2, because I absolutely loved the Commodore 64 version of the first one. I keep saying version, I mean the first one, because the second one obviously came out on the 64 as well. I absolutely loved that, but I don't think I've ever played Kickstart 2. If I have, I can't remember it, which isn't a good sign, I guess, but I really don't think I have played it, so I'm looking forward to having a few goes. This might be a game I play for the channel as well, because it might be quite interesting to do the construction side of things, but it sounds like I'm going to have to practice if that's the case, because I don't think you want to see me fumbling my way through it, so we will see on that one. But yeah, let me know how much of this you've played in the comments. Let me know if you enjoy it, if it's a bit slow, if you've played the Commodore 64 version as well, or the original. Let me know if there's a difference in speed on those two versions. I would be interested to know, because I don't remember the original Kickstart being particularly slow, but you never know. Time sort of makes the brain go a little bit foggy, doesn't it? So maybe I'm just misremembering, but anyway, I'm definitely adding this to mine, and I'm looking forward to having a few goes on the Spectrum. Moving on to game number 2, we have Angleball, released in 1987 from MAD, which is Mastertronic Added Dimension. So another Mastertronic game for $2.99. This one, you can play 2 players on this one. It's a sports/action game, apparently, according to this write-up. Also released on Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64, and MSX, and it is a pool simulation of assault, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you can see it from the gameplay actually. You won't have to wait for the review to necessarily see what I'm talking about. Created by Ian Heath. Now, this again hasn't got the best reviews, but I really remember liking Angleball. In fact, I did a video for this on my channel already, on my Nostalgia half-hour videos, or it might be on my Retro Game Bite-Sized Chunks one that I did, and I did a series of that where I just played the games for like less time, you know, because obviously Nostalgia half an hour was as it sounded. It was as close to half an hour as I could get my games, but I did also do a Bite-Sized Chunks where I did games for about 15 minutes or so, just like a little sneak taste of each game, so may well have been on there. But I remember enjoying Angleball. It was something a little bit different. Obviously, the fact you play on a hexagonal table for a start. I had to double check it had 6 sides when I was looking at a picture, because I was thinking to myself, is it hexagon? I can't remember. Yeah, it's hexagonal, yeah. So, but it's fun, and I thought particularly nicely playable, and also it's always nice when you got a 2-player game, isn't it, to play. As ever, we'll be checking out the crash review for this game, and as before with Kickstart 2, it's another fairly short review, so it's quite merciful for me when they have short reviews, because at least it's less reading, and we're getting quite nice ones to line up too, so my OCD's being satisfied here too. It does say in the crash review, retail price £2.99, so I definitely think they got that right. Hey ho, again, my memory's not what it used to be, so there we go. Let's read the review anyway. Pool can never be the same again after you've taken your cue to a hexagonal table. As in the standard game, coloured balls have to be hit into 6 pockets using the white. The cursor is used to align the cue ball and coloured object ball with the pocket. By creating the right angle, the coloured ball can be hit into a pocket. 6 of the coloured balls may be hit into the pockets in any order, but the black must be left till last, or a foul shot is incurred and the game is lost. Different types of spin, top, side and back can be given to the cue ball, causing it to react after striking the coloured ball. In this way, a good position can be achieved for the next shot. The shot strength is regulated by altering the length of the cue in the box at the bottom right of the screen. For every ball potted, points are awarded. When all balls on the table have been potted, the frame is over and another one can be played with a different arrangement of balls. A frame designer allows you to add your own ball arrangements. If 3 shots are missed, the game's over and it's time to hang up your cue. A frame designer allows you to set up your own starting position. So that's it. That's it for the review. Crazy, isn't it? That's only a very short review. Comments, it says simple but clear on graphics, sound, informative bells and whistles, options, redefinable keys, 1 or 2 players or 1 player versus computer, and frame designer. General rating, a neat snooker variation. We're going to go to the critiques first and then we'll do the scores afterwards, but you can probably see them on the screen anyway. New style hexagonal snooker table makes computer snooker easier, bringing the idea of clearing away all the balls within the realms of possibility. It doesn't take as long to get bored with Angleball as it does with every other snooker game, including the televised professional type, but perhaps the strength factor needs a bit of tweaking. I find that either you give the shot full power and the cue ball trickles along into the hole, or you try to kiss the pink and the cue ball trickles along until it comes within close range of a ball. And if you do happen to make a mistake or find a screen where you can't get a clear break, you'll need more than the stingy 3 misses you're allowed. Still, this is the best snooker simulation yet. 60%, so that's the most positive of the reviews or critiques. Nick says, well, what is Angleball? Is it some type of hexagonal snooker? Has Dennis Taylor got to get a pair of even weirder glasses? Well, actually, it's quite a good simulation. Do you remember way back when a game just called Snooker was released? The days of no loading screens. This one's very familiar. The balls are all different colours, and as usual in simulations, there's plenty of colour clash. When you hit the ball with your cue, it doesn't roll, it just hovers. Once you've got used to it, you can get a lot of fun out of Angleball. It's one to play on a rainy night, probably in Ludlow, where 99.9% of rain falls. So you think that's a positive score, wouldn't you there? 42%. So didn't have too much bad to say about it, a bit of colour clash and that, but even Paul says, a nice variation on snooker, though I can't really see people going out in their droves to purchase it. For $2.99, I don't know why, but I'd love to play the full-size table version. The computer version seems to have quite a bit of trouble when working out the correct angles from your spin, speed and table position. The one-player game is the most challenging, and though Angleball will be fun for the snooker pool 8-ball fanatics, it won't be too attractive to anyone else. Well, of course not. Who's going to play it if you're not interested in that sort of stuff? And he gave it 51%. So again, fairly negative there. But overall, he got presentation 66%, graphics 50%, playability 60%, addictive quality is 50%, overall 51%. So like I said, not the greatest marks. I remember this was good. To be honest, like, you know, when you're playing ZX Spectrum games, there weren't a lot of decent snooker or pool ones on there. So this is one of the better ones in my opinion. But, you know, what do I know? I am not an expert. But I enjoyed playing Angleball. Let me know as ever down below if you enjoyed it too, if you've ever played this game, if you've never heard of it, maybe you'd be interested in it, I don't know. I thought it was a really fun game personally, way back when, and I did it for the channel, and I also enjoyed it when I played for the channel, so I'm not quite sure why people are so down on it on here, but I enjoyed it, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. And back in the day, for £2.99, I thought it was worth it then too, because we bought it and we thoroughly enjoyed it, me and my brother, when we played it. So, like I said, we didn't have great snooker games and pool games to choose from. I think the first really good one that came out was Jimmy White's Snooker on the Commodore Amiga, or Jimmy White's Whirlwind Snooker, should I say, on the Commodore Amiga, which was absolutely brilliant. But before that, 3D Pool was pretty good, but I really like this one. So I'd say to you for sure, if you've never played it, well worth checking out. Alright, time for the next game. It's Head Coach from Addictive Games Limited, released in 1986, created by Simon J.C. Davis, and it's described quite obviously as a sport game management. Other platforms, Commodore 64, are released for £8.95. Probably should have said the price, I normally do. And this one, a ZX Computing Globella. Obviously this runs a lot of comparisons to Football Manager. It's really, obviously it is an American football management game, so I guess there would be a comparison there. Also, it was released by the same company that bought out Football Manager, so I guess that's again why it gets those comparisons. But I guess it's a fair enough comparison, really. You do get kind of like a stickman representation of the matches as they're going on, so I can see the logic of comparing it to Football Manager. And I had a lot of fun playing this game. This is the one American football game I remember playing lots of when I was a kid. I got into American football in 1985. That was when I really started watching it. I think it was because I started senior school that year, and I had friends that were also into it, so we were kind of like talking about it more. The Dolphins were in the Super Bowl, and I saw them play, because we didn't get a lot of coverage of American football back in those days. Channel 4 used to have it, and yeah, we didn't get many games, but I saw the Super Bowl and watched Dan Marino play, and that was it. After I saw Dan Marino play, and I was hooked, and I just thought he was a flipping absolute superstar. And he broke so many records, didn't he, Dan Marino, if you know your American football. And yeah, from that moment on, they were my team. I always remember we used to play this dice game. We had this dice game of American football. It was brilliant, and we used to play it on our break times, me and a couple of the kids from my class. One of them was a Jets fan, so but I still liked him as a person, but no. And so obviously we had a bit of rivalry, considering the Jets and the Dolphins had a bit of rivalry, and we got into our American football like that. Really, there was not many of us that liked the game, but me and my brother both did. Funny enough though, my nan bought us a football back then so that we could throw around, but she bought us a Seattle Seahawks football, so not really bore any relevance to our team we supported, but it was my nan. We didn't tell her, we didn't want to be rude, so we were happy to have a American football to lob around. I'll always remember that Christmas. It wasn't particularly snowy, so we went out on Christmas Day and we literally went to the park and we were throwing American football around. We were trying to get it to spiral the way the quarterbacks do. It's actually quite hard to throw an American football and get it to spin and spiral the way the quarterbacks do in America. But I always remember that Christmas we were just out at the park constantly trying to throw this football around. Probably not so good in an English winter because it's so windy and inevitably it did get snowy and icy further down the track, but yeah, good times. And I'm a huge American football fan now. I watch so much of it and still support the Dolphins. I have done. There's never been another team for me. Always been the Dolphins, even though they're not very good. They have never won a Super Bowl in my lifetime. We went through the perfect season the year I was born, so that's I guess it's the claim to fame on being born that year, but I never actually obviously got to witness it. It could be a good 12 years before I ever saw an American football match. But anyway, moving on, we've got a Sinclair user review to look at for this one. Unfortunately, it's only in black and white. I think I picked this one because the other ones I had were very short, so I tried to pick one with a few more words, because most of the reviews we've had so far on this have been very short. Okay, if the fridge brings to mind a 20-stone colossus who goes by the name of William Perry, then you're likely to be part of a fast-growing band of American football fans. The popularity of this game has grown enormously over here in the last few years, mainly due to its coverage on Channel 4. So they're preaching my language here. The sport now has its own magazine, a league of clubs, and an increasing number of players and supporters. Addictive Games, the Bournemouth-based software house responsible for the immensely popular Football Manager, has turned its attention to American football. The result is a game every bit as gripping as its predecessor. Head coach by SJC Davis follows the same format as Football Manager. You are manager of American Football Club in one of 6 regional divisions. Your aim is to steer your club to the regional championships, thus qualifying for the Super Bowl playoffs. There are 4 skill levels: novice, rookie, veteran, and all pro. Beginners are well advised to start with novice. Having chosen your club, such as the New York Giants or Dallas, I don't know what names those two, you then pick your team from a squad of 30 odd players. Don't be put off if you know nothing about the game. The positions and tactics soon become clear. Running backs, tight ends, quarterbacks, and kickers are different from goalkeepers, wingers, and strikers, but similar principles apply. I like the way they break it down for people that just have not got a clue about the game, which is fair enough because back then there was probably a lot of people in that position, me included. I had to learn what the game was all about. Didn't take that long, but being a massive sports nut, I could adapt to it pretty quickly. You have to select both an offensive and defensive team, taking into account the form, fitness, and availability of the various players. If you select an illegal lineup, such as 2 quarterbacks, the program will point out your error and let you choose again. Information about the opposing team is provided by scouts, but the accuracy of these reports varies during the 12-match season. Once you've got your team, the match begins. This is shown on screen in a manner familiar to all Football Manager devotees. The 2 teams line up on the pitch, initial possession depending on home or away advantage. If you have possession, you can choose between passing the ball, going for a rush, attempting to gain short yardage, or kicking for goal. If you are defending, you choose a tactic which you think the other side will take or adopt a general defensive posture. Passing the ball offers the greatest hope of scoring a touchdown or gaining a substantial amount of yardage, but it also has the greatest chance of losing possession. The unexpected tactic can also be extremely successful, such as deciding to go for a rush when the opposition is set up for a pass. An expert kicker is vital, though you need to be reasonably close to your opponent's goal in order to be successful. It's a tremendous thrill to kick a goal with the last play of the match when you are 9-7 down. That's a very specific score. It's surprising just how much adrenaline you can generate while guiding your team to victory or defeat. After each game, you can strengthen your squad on the transfer market. Other clubs may offer players in return for a member of your team. They're not stupid though, and any attempt to trade a no-hoper for a star is almost certain to be rejected. At the end of the season, the divisional winners and a small number of wildcard teams will be invited to the Super Bowl playoffs. This is organised on a knockout basis, the winners being accorded the accolade of Super Bowl champions. After the Super Bowl, you get updated information about your playing squad. Some of the older players will retire, some of the younger players will improve their performance. Then you'll be offered the chance to fill some of the gaps from the college draft, a new intake of players from the college system, before embarking on your second season in the game. Head coach is a must for everyone who enjoyed Football Manager but it should also appeal to all those American football fans. For those who know nothing about American football, Head Coach provides an excellent introduction to the game and how it works. Go for it. And in the facts box it says, a must for all sports fans. If you thrill to Football Manager, this one is unquestionably for you. And we've got all the details we already said. 5 out of 5 on this one. 5 stars. So there you have it. A good review for this game. And yeah, I really enjoy playing this one. This is probably my favourite on the ZX Spectrum without a doubt. I also played it on the Commodore 64, so it's another one I had on both computers. As I've already described in previous videos, I had a Commodore 64 at my dad's and I had a ZX Spectrum with me all the time when we were living at my mum's. So it was always beneficial to get these games on the Spectrum if they were any good, because I'd have more access to them to play, and I played this a lot. The only other game I remember really playing American football wise was the one that Ocean bought out, which was about the I think it was called Super Bowl, actually, if I remember correctly. I know it was the Chicago Bears playing against the Patriots, I think, which I didn't particularly like either team, so I wasn't particularly happy about that. I can't remember if you played it as any other teams in that. I really can't remember much about it. I just remember playing a lot of Head Coach, so I kind of settled on this one pretty early. And then obviously as we moved towards the 90s, Madden took over, and that was pretty much the only American football game I'd ever play after that for quite some time, you know. I think it first came out about 91, maybe 92, can't remember exactly. And yeah, from that moment on I was hooked on that. So definitely though, if you've got a passing interest in Football Manager like they say, or American football, I think personally speaking you can't go wrong with this. It's probably going to seem pretty simple playing this now, considering, you know, the games we're used to playing, but back then it was definitely the best that there was available, and I think it's an absolute no-brainer. I'm going to have a game with this later actually, because now since I've done this video it's obviously reminded me of how much I like this game, and obviously playing it for the footage as well for the video just reminds me, yeah, I really want to play this game. So I think I'm going to have a go later tonight. On to game 4, and it's Run for Gold, released in 1985 by Hilmer Gibbon, never heard of them. Created by Tim Miller. I don't think it's Tim Miller who directed Deadpool. Original price £7.95, also released on Amstrad CPC and Commodore 64. There's a little remark at the bottom of this which is one of the reasons I'm going to talk about why I like this game so much. It says, a nice sports game with huge sprites that instead of button bashing required a bit of strategy to come first. And that's what I like about this game. It's not one of those games where, you know, to go fast you've got to whack the keys really quickly and all the rest of it. You have a speed gauge and a stamina gauge basically, and you just have to slowly increase the speed gauge to run faster. The faster you run, the quicker your stamina goes down. I think if you go slower you get your stamina to go back up again slightly. And it was tactical. One of my favourite races when I used to watch athletics, when somebody would stay behind the leaders and then right at the end put in a sprint finish, and you can kind of do that in this game. More often than not you'll run out of stamina. You've got to get used to obviously the strategy of it, the timing of it, of when to go and, you know, when to sit and stuff like that. But I think it's really good fun, and you do steer the racer to a certain degree. I think that's on the second level of difficulty, and also obviously if you're running 1500 and 800 you don't stay in your lane. If you do 400 you stay in your lane the whole time. I think it's in case you don't know how athletics works, but if you do the other two races you've got to come across to the inside of the track at some point, which you will do manually. I can't remember if you do it on the easy skill level or whether it does it for you. I can't actually remember that, to be honest with you, but it was a lot of fun and totally different for the style of game. It's not a Daley Thompson's Decathlon by any means. So we're going to have a look at Crash this time around. It's quite a long one unfortunately, which means I'm going to get out of breath, no doubt. It means I'm going to have a lot of editing to do because I have to edit all that out when I'm out of breath. But anyway, it says on there it's by 5 Ways Software as well. By that they were the people that released it. Described as the ultimate challenge for middle distance runners, a chance to an Olympic gold against the world's top athletes in 400, 800 or 1500 metres. This Hilmer Gibbon sports simulation is decidedly unusual because it resembles none of the other similar track and field type games. The main reason for this is that the display takes a 3D perspective view as you might see in a road racer game, that is at ground level just behind the runners. The running screen shows a red running track marked by the white lines, the green of the surrounding grass, and beyond that the crowded stadium which scrolls along as the runners run around the bends at either end. A race starts with the runners taking part at their marks. Once off and going, the action is followed rather as though the player was looking through a camera tracking along immediately behind the runners. You control one runner, the computer controls the others. The similarity to a road racer is heightened in the instructions which tell you how to steer your runner. On level 1 of play, the runner will always stay centrally in his lane and you can change lanes by steering him. On level 2 of play, you will have to steer him constantly penalty as he will not automatically stay in the lane. So there you go, that answers the thing I wasn't sure on. A further complication is introduced in as much as the other runners will not try and collide, but as they change lanes for an advantage, a collision is possible, in which case you may fall over or be awarded a foul. Yeah, I seem to remember that could be quite frustrating actually. There's an element of strategy since a pacemaker may well be in the race and he should be well watched. Throughout the race, the two columns on the right record your runner's pace in meters per second and his energy level. You will be disqualified for making two forced starts in the same race, steering off the track, moving out of your lane in the 400 meters, or moving out of your lane before the 700 meter mark in the 800 meters. Oh, it's 700 meters mark. I'm sure they don't do that now. That seems a bit late, but could be wrong. Obviously, the rest of it, it's more criticism on here than there is review, which is a little bit strange. We'll skip to the comments like we always do. Keyboard play, quite responsive. Use of colour, sensible with few attribute problems. Graphics, excellent with very effective 3D. Sound, not much, just beeps for footsteps. Skill levels 2, screen scrolling, general rating, and excellent simulation, limited in scope and a bit pricey. And I'd agree with all those 3 points, to be honest with you. It is a really good simulation. It is a bit limited in scope in that you've only got 3 different races. There are things within the game which we'll go into. I think it looks like criticism number 1 is going to cover some of that. But I mean, pricey, I don't remember paying a lot of money for it. I think it must have come out on a budget label, which is when I bought it. Certainly don't remember overpaying for it anyway, but obviously that's not going to be a problem for us. Let's have a look at the criticism. The first one up, or actually we'll do all 3 obviously. Software houses don't seem to want us to forget the 84 Olympics yet. Here's another athletics type program, but wait, it's totally different in style to anything else yet seen. It's a 3D running game with some impressive, almost lifelike runners. There are only 3 events to attempt, all running. But don't let this make you think there is not much to the game. You must qualify for better competitions, pace your runner and keep him in his lane. I found the steering quite difficult, but there's an option to eliminate this up to a point. Run for Gold is a good simulation, but it could have been a little more addictive. Perhaps it would have felt better in the summer. Yeah, I guess the Olympics would have added something to it. Next one says, after such a large rush of athletics games and at such a late date, I'm surprised to see another sports game. Late or not, this game does qualify as having some of the best animation and large graphics around. Believe me, it's exceptionally detailed in its animation. Not only is there animation, but the animation is in 3D perspective, the first to be done in the sports scene. Of course, in comes Catch-22, because the animation is so good and realistic, just a few items have been sacrificed, or should I say, only one thing has been given. Yes, it's running. There were no other events in this game, just plain old running. This is a pity because with animation like this and a few different events, it would have been unbeatable. Another niggle I might add is that because the graphics characters are so large and well animated, they move quite slowly. It's a shame that Hill McGibbon could not have added a few more features to this game, which together with the great graphics would sell the game. Unfortunately, as it stands and at such a high price, it will not see the light of day for many sports games players. And the final critique says, this definitely has to be the most realistic looking running game ever for the Spectrum, and probably for any computer yet. The graphics are huge and beautifully animated, and the background effect works very well. The pace at which they move is rather slow, however, and gives the impression of watching a slowed down action replay. Unlike all other track and field type games, Run for Gold does not require the ultimate destruction of either keyboard or joystick. It's a good point. And that's a fair point, isn't it, as well, because I haven't played any games that require button bashing or joystick waggling yet on the Spectrum, because I don't want to either ruin my joystick or ruin the lovely rubber keys on my Spectrum. So I think with this one, it's a way you can play an athletics game but not feel like you're going to destruct anything, which is a nice proposition, quite frankly. I mean, I love Daley Thompson Decathlon as well as most people, but don't know how much I'm going to play it on the Spectrum, unless I've got like an old joystick I can plug in and use, but you know, I don't want to break nothing. It's much more of a game of judgment and skill. It's rather steeply priced though, which may not appeal to many who would otherwise love it. So there you have it. That was a strange place for me to stop the review there, to be honest with you. I didn't have much, I should have just read that, but I wanted to get my point across about the button bashing. But anyway, use of computer 78%, graphics 81%, playability 70%, getting started 85%. Marks go a little bit downhill now. Addictive qualities and value for money both get 55%. Overall 71%. So not bad. Like I said, I think personally speaking, it's a different style game. Actually, the tagline on the bottom of the case there, or on the top of the case, sorry, but at the bottom of the page of the crash review says games to stretch the mind. And there you go. I think this one it does stretch your mind because it forces you to use tactics rather than fast running. You know, you've got to decide if you want to go out in front and then run the rest of the race slow, so the field sort of bunches behind you and you can win it from the front, or you sit back, you let all the other runners go off and then slowly you pick them off one by one. So there's different tactics to running the races. I personally preferred the 1500 for that reason. I found the 400 quite tricky to get the pace right because you've always got to really go quite fast. 1500 is good because you can go off very slow, but you can sort of like claw it back because it's a long race. So I quite liked that about this game, and it was different to anything we had at that time. So there've been some games that have tried that sort of approach since, but back then there hadn't been anything like this, and I really like this game a lot. So as ever, I always say, let me know in the comments if you've got any memories of this one, if you played it. Me and my brother used to play this a lot, and I definitely think it's worthy of an add to the Spectrum. It's already on mine, and actually I think, like with Head Coach earlier, now I've reminded myself of this one again. I'm putting it on a list and I'm going to play it. Maybe not tonight because I'm going to have a game of Head Coach tonight, but maybe this week. Could be one for the channel as well, because there's not loads to it, but you know, it's enough there for a bit of interest, certainly for a one-off video. So if you're interested in seeing that, let me know. And the final game on this list, possibly the most controversial, Peter Shilton's Handball Maradona, released by Grand Slam in 1986. 2 players could play this game. It's a unique one to say the least. Cost £6.95, and other platforms were Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64. Now the reason I think this is worth an ad is because this is a different kind of football game. It's not very good. I have to preface that. It's not very good, but it's a game where you actually control the goalkeeper and none of the players. So I think that's a really interesting difference with this game, and I really wanted to love this when it came out because it was fascinating to be the goalkeeper, to be playing a football game from a totally different perspective. It's a sort of like up and down the screen type football game. There's got to be a better way of saying that, but I don't actually know what it is. The phrase escapes my mind at this present moment in time. It might say in the review, you never know. But yeah, this game wasn't the best, but I think it's worth adding simply because it's a different perspective on playing the game of football, and you can get some fun out of that. I remember me and my brother were playing this, and it was just like it was more like a competition to who would be the best goalkeeper out of the two of us and who is just the absolute worst. And it's just really funny sometimes to really blow it and suck in a game and like let about 5 goals in. It's hilarious. But if you're looking for a quality football game, maybe not this one as such. But the review I've got doesn't give it a bad score, which is a little bit strange, but we'll get to that now. The review is from Sinclair User. I have to take issue straight away. At least we've got a nice colourful review, which is a good thing, but some of the marks on here, I mean, Footballer of the Year, which is probably in my mind the best of the games on here. Okay, again, not the greatest game, but they gave it 1 star. Super Soccer, which I remember quite liking actually, but not 4 out of 5's worth. They give it 4 out of 5, and then they say at the end it doesn't quite come off. So I don't know really how it gets 4. Handball Maradona got 3. Now I wouldn't have been very surprised if all these marks were reversed. Football of the Year got 4, Super Soccer got 3, and Handball Maradona got 1. But there you go. This is the way they've chosen to do it. It's only a small review, so bear that in mind before I start reading. Thankfully, I'm not going to get out of breath hopefully on this one. As there's not a lot of words on this page, we're going to read everything, so we're going to read this little green box at the top. It says, there's enough soccer action on this page to keep John Motson in clinches for a month. Clinches? Okay, never heard that expression, to be honest, not like in those terms anyway. Whether you end up over lunar objects or as unwell as an exotic species of avian depends on which game you support this new year. What the heck does that mean? There's something for goalkeepers, award-hungry strikers, or those old-fashioned play-anywhere utility players. But even if you love footy, remember the spectre of World Cup Carnival still haunts the terraces. Yeah, that was a notoriously absolutely awful game. I was so excited when that game came out as well, but yeah, that was not a good game at all. So we'll get to the main review now. It's like this, boss. They achieved midfield dominance, culminating in a crescendo of attacks and a goal riot I was powerless to prevent. Or in footballing parlance, we was stuffed. The impression I took away from Peter Shilton's Handball Maradona was that Argus had a game idea waiting for a suitable controversy to give it a life. Yeah, don't even talk about the game this is based on, because yeah, that game will haunt my nightmares for my life when I was watching it. I was so excited when England got to that game in the tournament, and it just, Maradona, oh god. Loved him as a player before that moment, absolutely hated him for the rest of his career. Just, I mean, a way to destroy yourself in the eyes of most English fans. Absolute shocker. I don't even care that he scored that other goal, quite honestly, because the cheating that went on before that. Anyway, we're not going to, you can see it's getting my blood pressure up, so we're not going to talk about that. Whether we should consequently be happy that England had such a contentious exit from the 86 World Cup is doubtful, thank you. Goalkeeper is not the most glamorous position on a football pitch, and the game suffers from the inevitable fact that the action happens to you rather than around you. Having accepted, then, that better game subjects have been chosen, it's only fair fair to add that Handball Maradona is still a worthy attempt at appreciating soccer from the keeper's point of view. You control the keeper bouncing on his goal line as action unfolds before him. Without fail, the defence will contrive to present the opposing forwards with scoring opportunities, and these guys, in rushes to a man, are always on target. You can move left and right, come forward to narrow the angle, or jump to save and dive in one of 6 directions: high left or low left, centre left, and vice versa. Be in the right position and correctly read the shot and you save it. Miss and the scoreboard bleeps up goal. The animation of the white figure on the green is fine, if slowish, but there's no getting away from the fact that you perform one act in every 20 seconds. What earns this game its stars? 3 is uncommonly high from this reviewer, Ed. I hate when they put little editor notes in brackets on these things. It's just like, it's such a cliche of the 80s gaming magazines, isn't it, to have this mysterious editor that's like looking over everything. That's just what they used to do back then. Is that the build-ups are well animated, entertaining, and above all realistic. Pinpoint headers from corners, viciously curving free kicks, deadly penalties, and dipping volleys rain in as the defence makes itself absent and relies on you, Shilts, to do your stuff. You pick a team, practice, play games, try and improve your skill rating, and it all takes place with the same white-shirted Linekers thumping the ball in. It's almost addictive and definitely satisfying when you pluck one out from under the crossbar, but loses points for being impossibly difficult to pick up the flight of the ball. Forget positioning and narrowing angles, just react when you are sure of the direction of the shot. Remember, boss, you don't need a keeper. Spend, is that £200? Or it looks like 200,000, so it almost looks like 20,000, but they put the comma in the wrong place. Or is it 200 with a full stop? It's really hard to read that. It looks like it should be 200,000 on the defense. We'll say that instead. And in the facts box, it says, taking into account the goalie isn't the most action-packed position, the game turns out quite well. Okay, so there's a typo there somewhere. I guess it probably says the game turns out quite well, and it got 3 stars. So there you have it. Not the best game in the world, and the average rating from the 4 magazines that I saw was about 40%. So yeah, that kind of bears out that it's definitely not the most stunningly amazing football game in the world, but I think a unique game in terms of like the experience, you know, the fact that you've got to like play it from the goalkeeper's perspective. It's also quite a unique angle to see it from, you know, but I think it's funny. It's definitely fun when you pull off a save or two, but you are going to get frustrated playing this one, let's put it that way. But I think, personally speaking, it's nice to have these different sort of football games, you know. It's always nice to have a football game from a different viewpoint. I think that's probably why we liked Sensible Soccer so much, and Kick Off, the kicking up the pitch view and stuff like that was different back then, and also obviously the game's played amazingly. But we haven't had a game really where you control the goalkeepers that much. You could control them in things like Match Day 2, which was absolutely amazing when you pulled off saves. But this one, solely focusing on a goalkeeper, is definitely something different, which I think makes it not only unique but also interesting and like definitely something that you might want to give a go, particularly if you're a goalkeeper. But be warned, it's not the greatest game out there. Okay, so that was 5 more random sports games to add to the spectrum. Those games again were Kickstart 2, Angleball, Head Coach, Run for Gold, Peter Shilton's Handball Maradona. Let me know if you've played any of these games in the comments, and also let me know what you think of them as well. There's a couple of contentious ones on here, I guess, in terms of like quality, particularly maybe the last one, but we were kind of like that with football games, weren't we? We didn't have many great ones until like Match Day 2 came along. There were a lot of okay games, you know, in terms of football games. I suppose in terms of a lot of sports games too, you know, we were very lacking of a good cricket game on the spectrum as well. So, you know, and probably a good golf game until Leaderboard came along. So in that sense, you're always going to have your favourites, of course. I personally put this one on for like specific memories, as you know, I've already discussed, and I'm not saying it's the best game. I just kind of felt it was a bit of a novel idea. Again, we've already talked about this, so I don't need to go over it again, but let me know if you've got any thoughts on any sports games that might be a bit different as well, because I'm always looking for that sort of thing. And you never know, maybe you'll come up with some suggestions that I've never played before, which will be amazing, because I do like to add unique games and give them a whirl, so that will be great. Thanks ever so much again for watching the videos. Do appreciate it. Hope you have a great Christmas. I probably will release another video before then, but we're getting very close now, aren't we? So if this is the last video that goes up before Christmas, I hope you have a wonderful time and I wish you a happy new year. Me personally, with my circumstances at home and everything and the way I've been feeling lately, I'm probably not celebrating Christmas. And a few years ago, I never thought I'd ever say that. Christmas is my favourite time of the year, but when you've lost the light in your life, it's a little bit difficult to celebrate, and me and my ex-wife, we were all about Christmas, so for me it's kind of probably going to be forever tainted, unfortunately. So I'm not really going to enjoy it. I'm going to be by myself here, and it's going to be a pretty miserable time, to tell you the truth. God, I shouldn't be saying this on a video, should I? But yeah, I don't think I'm going to have the best time, but maybe it means I'll get a lot of videos made, so you never know. Could be some new content coming up over the Christmas holidays, so keep your eyes peeled for that. That's enough of my woe is me tale anyway. Let's just end on a positive note and say hope you all have a Merry Christmas with your families and everything. Hope everybody's fit and healthy for the start of the year and for the whole of the next year, and God willing the next 10, 15, 20 years. That will be fantastic. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for your support over this year. Really do appreciate it. Can't thank you enough for that, and warms the old cockles. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.